Have you ever felt trapped in an emotional cycle, struggling to hold on to something that no longer brings you joy? The truth is that many of us carry the weight of relationships, memories, and expectations that prevent us from moving forward. The pain of unrequited love, or the relentless search for validation, can be so profound that it feels impossible to overcome. However, what if you discover that by letting go, you are actually freeing yourself to live the life you truly deserve? In this video, we will explore the transformative power of releasing what no longer serves you, and how this choice can open doors to a lighter and more fulfilling future. Get ready to dive into a journey of self-discovery and recovery as we reveal the secrets of how despair can be a key to your personal growth. Unrequited love can be one of the most painful experiences someone can face. Often, people find themselves stuck in relationships where they are not valued, creating a cycle of emotional pain that becomes difficult to break. When this happens, a person begins to cling to memories and past moments, idealizing a love that may have never existed in reality. This relentless pursuit of validation, especially on social media, can bring fleeting moments of joy, but is soon followed by a deep emptiness. What should be a rewarding relationship transforms into a source of pain, leading to a feeling of despair. The use of social media exacerbates this problem, as every notification, every photo, can reactivate emotions we thought we had overcome. It's as if we are constantly staring at an open wound, reminding us of what could have been. This behavior not only prolongs the pain, but also reinforces the idea that we need validation from others to feel complete. When the brain becomes accustomed to seeking this approval, it can fall into a vicious cycle where a person feels increasingly dependent on the attention they do not receive. The pain of unrequited love often translates into significant emotional damage. The individual may begin to question their worth and feel inferior, especially if someone else shows interest in someone who is not them. This type of social comparison can lead to diminished self-esteem and self-criticism. The internal struggle between the need to move on and the attempt to relive happy moments creates an emotional roller coaster, leaving a person exhausted and confused. Furthermore, when a person clings to these memories, they may lose the ability to see the present clearly. Unrequited love transforms into a cycle of emotional dependency, where the expectation of a return causes a person to ignore the signs that the relationship is unhealthy. This pattern can repeat itself, creating a sequence of unreciprocated relationships that only perpetuate emotional pain, while true happiness remains out of reach. Ultimately, it is crucial to consider that the pain of unrequited love is a common experience and does not define anyone's worth. It is a sign that it is time to reassess and focus on self-care. By distancing themselves emotionally and seeking support from friends and engaging in activities that bring joy, a person can begin to heal their open wounds and rebuild their self-esteem. Self-love must become a priority, allowing a person to start moving forward and make space for new experiences. The search for validation is a deeply rooted experience in human emotions. Many people invest their love and energy in individuals who do not reciprocate, whether through indifference or, worse yet, disrespect. This behavior creates an emotional pain that is difficult to describe, but easy to feel. By offering love to someone who does not respond similarly, a person not only devalues themselves, but also feeds a cycle of frustration and self-blame. This dynamic transforms into a vicious cycle, where the desire to be loved becomes an emotional burden. Emotional vampires are those who draw energy from others, but offer nothing in return. They may be sought out by people who constantly validate their ego, but never truly commit to reciprocating that love. For those who find themselves in such relationships, the pain is twofold. On one hand, there is the hope that one day this person will recognize their worth. On the other hand, the cruel reality that this love may never be returned. This situation creates a profound sense of helplessness, causing a person to question their worth and adequacy. What makes this search for validation even more complicated is that it is often tied to our need for belonging and acceptance. The human desire to be loved and valued is natural, but when it becomes an obsession, it can lead to intense emotional exhaustion. This exhaustion intensifies when the brain starts to associate unrequited love with its identity. The constant quest for external validation can create emotional dependence, where the person feels they need the approval of others to feel complete. As this search intensifies, there can be a decrease in self-esteem. A person may feel increasingly trapped in a cycle of frustration while continuing to give love to someone who clearly is not willing to reciprocate. This disparity between what is given and what is received leads to a state of anxiety and sadness, making it difficult to see the value that is already hard to possess. It's as if, in their quest for love, they lose sight of who they really are and what they deserve. To break this painful cycle, it is essential to consider self-worth and the importance of establishing healthy boundaries. True validation comes from within, not from someone who does not affirm your value. When a person realizes that self-love must be a priority, they begin to make choices that steer them away from toxic relationships and attractions toward healthier connections. This shift in attitude is a crucial step on the journey to emotional recovery, allowing a person to focus on their own growth and well-being. Emotional cycles can be one of the most challenging aspects of the human experience, especially when it comes to unrequited love. When a person faces rejection, their brain often goes into a state of alert, incessantly searching for signs of validation from the other person. This quest transforms into a vicious cycle, where the expectation of small gestures of affection leads to deep emotional attachment. Each time these crumbs are offered, even sporadically, the brain is rewarded with a release of dopamine, reinforcing the idea that a connection is still possible. As a person clings to these emotional crumbs, the brain adapts to a pattern of behavior. Each positive interaction, no matter how small, is amplified in the mind, creating a false expectation that love can evolve into something more significant. This dynamic not only perpetuates pain, but also leads to frustration and disillusionment when expectations are not met. The heart longs for a full love, but the mind gets stuck in a replaying cycle that leads nowhere. Another factor contributing to the perpetuation of these emotional cycles is self-criticism. Many people who go through experiences of unrequited love often blame themselves for the lack of emotional reciprocation. They think they are not enough, or that they cannot do enough to win the other person's attention. This negative thinking not only exacerbates the pain but also becomes an obstacle to emotional recovery. The brain, receiving this message repeatedly, tends to accept this self-criticism as truth, perpetuating the cycle of suffering. Moreover, the struggle between reason and emotion further complicates the situation. While the rational mind knows that a relationship is not working, emotion often prevails, causing the person to continue seeking validation. This internal battle can create a state of emotional confusion where joy and sadness coexist, making the situation unbearable. It is at this point that understanding the dynamics of emotional cycles becomes crucial, as it provides an opportunity for a person to identify and break this pattern. Breaking this cycle requires conscious effort and a shift in perspective. By understanding that emotions are volatile and that happiness should not depend on a single individual, a person can begin to reprogram their thinking. This means replacing the quest for external validation with the building of a solid self-love, affirming that true worth does not come from being loved by someone else, but from loving oneself first. This shift in attitude not only helps interrupt emotional cycles, but also opens up space for healthier relationships in the future. Breaking a toxic emotional cycle is a challenge, but it is a crucial step toward recovery and personal growth. The first step in this process is awareness of the destructive patterns that repeat themselves. Often, people do not realize they are clinging to relationships that offer nothing in return, and this is where reflection becomes essential. By identifying these behaviors, a person can begin to understand that they deserve more than the pain they are experiencing. This realization is liberating and opens the doors to change. Self-esteem plays a fundamental role in breaking this cycle. When someone truly values themselves, it becomes easier to set boundaries and distance themselves from situations that do not bring joy. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love, where a person recognizes that they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. This change can be challenging, especially if a person is used to accepting emotional crumbs. However, By prioritizing their own well-being, a person places themselves on the path to healthier and more fulfilling relationships. For many, the idea of breaking the emotional cycle can evoke a fear of loneliness. However, it is essential to understand that temporary solitude can be an opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. In this space of solitude, a person can explore their interests, discover new passions, and, more importantly, learn to love themselves unconditionally. This phase of rediscovery is crucial, as it allows a person to become stronger and more centered before entering a new relationship. Moreover, by focusing on their own growth and development, a person begins to create a new narrative in their life. Instead of defining themselves by relationships that do not value them, they start to build an identity based on their passions and achievements. This new focus not only helps overcome the past, but also attracts relationships that are more compatible and fulfilling. Self-discovery and personal growth become the keys to opening new doors. Finally, it is important to remember that breaking the emotional cycle is not an isolated event, but rather a continuous process. Each day offers a new opportunity to set boundaries, practice self-love, and focus on personal growth. By following this path, a person not only frees themselves from the past, but also prepares for a future where healthy and respectful relationships can flourish. This transformation is one of the most rewarding experiences someone can go through and marks the beginning of a new journey. Human emotions can be compared to musical instruments, each with its own timbre and resonance. Just like a symphony where different notes combine to create a unique auditory experience, our emotions interact in complex ways. Sometimes an emotion like love can start with an overwhelming intensity, almost like an explosion of notes filling the room. However, as time passes and trends change, that intensity may fade, leading to a feeling of melancholy that resembles the distant echo of music that once was vibrant. When we encounter difficult emotions like sadness or anger, it is important to consider that, just as a musician needs practice to master their instrument, we also need to work on our emotions. Ignoring or repressing these feelings can cause them to accumulate, transforming into a cacophony of pain and frustration. Instead, we should allow ourselves to feel and explore these emotions, understanding that they are an integral part of our human experience. This recognition is essential for healing, as it enables us to adjust the melody of our lives in a more harmonious way. Moreover, emotions, when constantly triggered by memories or situations, can become like a musical piece playing on an endless loop. If a memory of a lost love keeps resurfacing, it can create a cycle of pain that is hard to break. This repetition not only keeps the pain alive, but also prevents a person from moving forward. To change this dynamic, it is necessary to alter the emotional score, replacing painful reminders with experiences that bring joy and fulfillment. Another powerful analogy is that, just as each emotion has its own duration, we also need to understand that they change. For example, love can start intensely and then transform into something calmer and more serene. The ability to accept these emotional transitions is essential for our well-being. By understanding that emotions are ephemeral, we can learn not to cling to negative feelings, allowing them to flow and eventually fade away. Ultimately, accepting our emotions as musical instruments gives us the power to create the soundtrack of our lives. When we can consciously play these emotions, we can create a symphony that is more balanced and healthy. Instead of being carried away by emotional chaos, a person can become a conductor of their own life, choosing which feelings to cultivate and which to let go. This approach not only promotes mental health, but also paves the way for deeper and more meaningful relationships in the future. Overcoming a destructive emotional cycle requires practical and concrete actions. The first step toward recovery is to create emotional distance from the source of pain. This may mean cutting contact with a person who is causing suffering, whether by blocking them on social media or avoiding unnecessary interactions. By doing this, a person gives themselves the chance to heal without the constant reminder of what hurts them. The separation can be painful, but it is a necessary step to rebuild self-esteem and regain emotional well-being. In addition to emotional distance, reconnecting with friends and family is vital for recovery. Social support is a powerful tool that helps alleviate emotional pain. Spending time with caring people can offer a new sense of perspective and joy. Simple activities like going out for coffee, playing a sport, or engaging in a hobby help redirect emotional energy. By seeking out positive and supportive people, one begins to see that love and connection exist outside the relationship that has caused pain. The practice of physical exercise is another effective way to cope with emotional pain. When we exercise, our body releases endorphins, which are hormones that promote a sense of well-being. Even a light walk can do wonders for mental health. Exercise not only improves mood, but also provides a way to channel negative energy. Incorporating physical activity into daily routine can be a crucial step on the recovery journey, offering not only physical benefits, but also emotional ones. Furthermore, self-care techniques such as meditation and mindfulness can be extremely beneficial. These practices help develop awareness of the present moment and manage emotions in a more balanced way. By learning to observe their own thoughts without clinging to them, a person begins to understand that they can choose their responses, thereby reducing the intensity of emotional pain. Over time, this practice becomes a useful tool for dealing with the ups and downs of life. Finally, emotional recovery is an ongoing process that requires patience and self-compassion. There is no set timeline for healing, and it is normal to experience setbacks. The important thing is to view these moments as part of the journey, not as failures. Every small step toward healing is a victory, and by allowing oneself to feel and analyze the pain, a person finds the strength to move forward. At the end of this process, the sense of lightness and emotional freedom will be worth it. Learning to let go is one of the most challenging, yet liberating lessons we can face in life. Often, we cling to situations, people, and emotions that no longer serve us, believing that maintaining this attachment brings us security. However, this need for control can become a burden, and it is crucial to understand that we cannot control the actions or emotions of others, but we can control our own. This freedom is the first step toward emotional liberation. Letting go means shedding the weight of the past and recognizing that what no longer serves us must be released. Often, this release is accompanied by fear, the fear of being alone or losing something that seemed important. However, true strength lies in understanding that happiness is not tied to a specific person or relationship. By loosening these ties, we open up space for new opportunities and experiences that genuinely enrich our lives. To aid in this process of detachment, the practice of gratitude can be a powerful tool. When we begin to focus on the good things we have and the experiences we can still live, our perspective shifts. Gratitude teaches us to value the present and recognize that, even if something has happened, there is still much to be thankful for. This change in focus is essential for building a new narrative about ourselves and our future. Moreover, self-care and investing in ourselves are fundamental to learning to let go. By prioritizing activities that make us feel good, whether exercising, reading, meditating, or spending time with friends, we start to build a new identity that does not depend on someone who has hurt us. The act of caring for oneself is a declaration of self-love, a recognition that we deserve the best that life has to offer. This shift can be a powerful step toward new and healthy connections. Ultimately, the journey of letting go is a continuous process. It is not something that happens overnight, but rather a path that requires practice and patience. It is normal to have setbacks, but the important thing is to learn from each experience. By focusing on your actions and setting clear boundaries, a person regains control over their emotional well-being. This journey of detachment not only brings closure, but also opens up space for a future full of possibilities, where self-love and happiness are the priorities. Learning to let go is, above all, an act of courage. It is about recognizing that what no longer serves us must be released, allowing new beginnings to flourish. As you progress on this journey, remember that every step is progress. Over time, you will discover that true happiness and fulfillment come from within, not from someone who does not recognize your worth. By concentrating on self-love and personal growth, you will not only let go, but also open the doors to a vibrant future filled with love.